All right, let's just jump right in. We're all alive, right? But have you ever really stopped and thought about the sheer mind-boggling order that takes? I mean, how does life, this incredibly complex, information-packed system, actually manage to exist in a universe that's constantly trying to tear everything apart? Well, that's what we're going to dig into today. The cell's economy and how it pays its energy bills just to stay in business.
See, the thing is, life is fighting this constant uphill battle. The universe, by its very nature, loves to move towards randomness, towards disorder. And yet, living things, they're the exact opposite. They are absolute masterpieces of order and information.
Take a look at this quote from Shakespeare. It's not just a random pile of letters, is it? No, it's structured, it has rhythm, it has meaning. There's a huge amount of information packed into just a few lines. That right there? That's a perfect example of low randomness, or as scientists call it, low entropy.
Now look at this. These are the exact same letters from that quote, but they're just scrambled into a chaotic mess. All the meaning, all that rich information is just gone. This is high entropy. This is the state of disorder that the universe naturally wants to move towards. So you see the fundamental problem life has to solve, right?
Which brings us to the big question. How do our cells, these tiny, entropy-poor pockets of perfect order, how do they manage to build and maintain themselves against that constant, relentless pull of chaos? How on earth do they pay for this existence?
So let's put a name to our villain here, entropy. It's just the scientific measure of randomness or disorder. Think about it. A messy room has high entropy. A clean, perfectly organized one has low entropy. Well, living cells are insanely organized, which means they have to work non-stop to keep their entropy low.
So how does the cell pull this off? Well, its first trick is just brilliant. It's like a super savvy business person who knows exactly how to manage income and expenses. What the cell does is it pairs chemical reactions together.
In the cell's economy, you've basically got two kinds of transactions. On one hand, you have ergonomic reactions. Think of these as your earning side. They release energy, they happen spontaneously. Then you have the endergonic reactions. This is the spending side. They require an input of energy, and they will absolutely not happen on their own.
And here's the crucial part. Pretty much everything a cell does to build itself, making proteins, copying DNA, all that complex machinery of life, that's an endergonic process. It's all spending. It all costs energy. That bill is always coming due. So, what's the solution? It's this amazing strategy called reaction coupling. The cell takes an energy-releasing reaction, the earning, and uses that energy to immediately pay for an energy-requiring reaction, the spending. It's kind of like using your paycheck to instantly and directly pay a bill, which makes the whole transaction happen. Okay, but to make all these transactions happen, you need a currency, right? You need something that can be earned in one place and then spent in another. For the cell, that universal currency is a really remarkable molecule called ATP. Let's see this whole thing in action with a real example. So, step 1, the goal. The cell needs to convert glucose into a more useful form. But that process is endergonic. It costs energy. So how does the cell pay up? Bam! Step 2. The cell breaks a molecule of ATP. This is an exergonic reaction that releases a big burst of energy. And then, step 3, that energy is immediately used to power the glucose conversion. The earning pays for the spending. Job done.
And you gotta understand, this isn't some minor one-off trick. As the source material says, ATP is the major energy carrier in all cells. I'm talking from a tiny bacterium all the way to a giant blue whale. ATP is the dollar, the yen, the euro of the biological world. It's the universal standard for paying life's energy bills.
Okay, so the cell can now afford all the reactions it needs to stay alive. We're done here, right? Well, not so fast. There's another huge problem we have to deal with: speed. Just because a reaction can happen, energetically speaking, doesn't mean it'll happen quickly. Some of these reactions, left to their own devices, could take years. But life happens in the blink of an eye, in seconds and milliseconds. The cell's chemistry has to be absolutely lightning fast.
So what's the holdup? It's something called activation energy. The best way to think about it is like the little push you need to get a boulder rolling downhill. Even if the whole trip down releases energy, you still need that little upfront investment, a startup cost, just to get things going. And this is where enzymes just change the whole game. They are biological catalysts, and their job is to slash that startup cost.
Without an enzyme, that activation energy barrier is like a huge mountain you have to climb. But with an enzyme, it's more like a tiny little speed bump, letting the reaction fly through.
How much faster are we talking? Get ready for this. An enzyme can make a reaction over 1 trillion times faster. No, that is not a typo, 1 trillion. It's a number so big it's almost impossible to even wrap your head around. But that's the kind of speed we need for life.
So the genius of enzymes is really two things. First, they dramatically lower that activation energy, finding the most efficient shortcut for a reaction. And second, and this part is absolutely critical, they're total specialists. Each enzyme is like a unique key for a unique lock. It only works on one specific reaction. This gives the cell precise, amazing control over its entire chemical network.
All right, let's take a step back now and put all of these pieces together. We've got our energy source, we've got our currency, and we've got our reaction accelerators. Now we can see the cell's entire economy in action.
So the cell's metabolism is basically split into two big departments. You've got catabolism, which is the earning department. This is where the cell breaks down nutrients from food to make that all-important ATP. And then you have anabolism. That's the spending department, using all that ATP to build the complex stuff the cell needs to grow and repair itself.
And we're not talking about some simple, straight assembly line. No way. Metabolism is this vast, sprawling, interconnected network of thousands of pathways, all supercharged by enzymes, all linked together by the flow of ATP. It's way more like the entire bustling economy of a massive city than it is a single factory.
But what makes this economy truly mind-blowing is how it regulates itself. It is incredibly efficient. Take, for example, the assembly line that makes the amino acid isoleucine. If the cell starts making a little too much, the extra isoleucine itself actually goes back and shuts down the very first enzyme in the line. It's a perfect supply and demand feedback loop. No waste.
So there you have it, the 4 key solutions that allow life to defy entropy and win its uphill battle. You have coupling to balance the energy budget. You have ATP, the universal currency to pay for everything. You have enzymes, the catalysts that run reactions at the speed of life. And you have regulation, these smart feedback systems that ensure perfect balance and efficiency.
It's this incredibly elegant, precise system, a self-regulating economy that has been running flawlessly for billions of years. Which, of course, leaves us with one last, really deep thought. This whole intricate system, all these enzymes and pathways, it all works with near-perfect precision. But who wrote the business plan? Where did the information to build it all come from in the first place? Well, that's a question that takes us even deeper, right into the world of DNA itself.